What up? It's your boy, the Incredible Man, and yes, I am back at it again, and this is My Hero Academia Season 4, Episode 21 discussion slash review. Now, I'm diving right in because I enjoyed this episode. I knew that the fight between Gento and Deku was coming because that was what we saw in the opening for the festival arc. That fight was going to take place during the festival arc, and we dove right into it because the last couple episodes was them preparing for the festival, and now it's the day of the festival. Deku has to go get some rope, and the fight is taking place. Now, before we get to the fight, let's discuss some of the stuff that's taking place beforehand. We see everybody practicing the night before, getting everything ready, kind of getting all of the finer details together, trying to tune everything to make sure it's right and perfect. So when they perform it tomorrow, they'll be ready and have everything down packed. Now, everybody's going over the last minute details. And we see Deku pulling Aoyama on the rope. And so then we get back to the dorm. And everybody's kind of relaxing. And most of everybody's asleep. But the people that couldn't sleep, they're up. They're amped. They're super hyped. And they're just they got a little nerves going through their body because they're so ready to perform tomorrow. And they're a little nervous at the same time. But we see everybody's ready to perform tomorrow. And Deku realizes that, they've been using the rope so much to practice that it's a little frayed and they can't use that rope tomorrow because he may drop Aoyama tomorrow. So he decided to go to the store in the morning early to buy some more rope because he could go that night. So he's decided to leave earlier in the morning because the festival starts, I think, at 9. So he found a store that was opening at 8 to buy a rope. So that's how we set up the whole thing for him and Gento to actually have a fight. He has to go out and get rope. Now, all of that's happening. Everybody's practicing, and so then everybody decides to go to bed. So it's the next morning, and I love this episode for multiple reasons. But I really love the fact that we got to see a time frame of everything actually going down. There was a little digital clock that kept popping up throughout the episode, showing us different times in the actual time as everything progressed in this episode, and I really loved it. Excuse me. I really, really loved that. It was very nice. But the next morning comes and we see Deku waking up kind of earlier. I think it's maybe like 6 or 7 o'clock, somewhere around maybe like 6:30, 6:20 something, or 7:20 or 7:30, somewhere around in there. But it's earlier than what he needed to go to the store for to get the rope. So it's earlier, and he's practicing his new moves. Well, not new moves, but he's practicing thumping using 8% till he's ready, and then releasing 20% to actually use the move with All Might earlier in the morning. And then in comes Hatsume to give him his new gear, which is these gloves / gauntlets. And All Might looks at them and he's surprised. He's like, wow, this looks really good. And we all know Hatsume is very, very wonderful, and that's who Deku uses to create all his newer gear that he needed to compensate for, like maybe using too much power, or because he couldn't use his fist, so she created the shoot style gear and everything. He uses Hatsume to create his gear because we all know that Hatsume's good. Hatsume is really, really good, and all of the gear that she designs for Deku, it looks very good, and it fits his aesthetic for his whole costume, because his costume is very simple, but the gear that she creates goes very well with his costume. And so he sticks to using Hatsume, and there's nothing wrong with that. Finding that one good designer to create your gear, especially if you're a hero and she knows how your quirk works, she knows how your abilities work and everything. So it's good to use one creator to create all this stuff, and Hatsume's good. So she created these gauntlets, which look phenomenal, by the way. And All Might looks at them and he was like, oh wow, these look different from when I used gear back in the day. It was so big and bulky. These are nice and compact, and Deku can slide them right on and off. So he slides them on and he starts practicing, and then Hatsume gives him a manual and everything. And I found it really good because we see Deku actually using these, and he kept them on the whole time. He didn't just use them in the forest while he was practicing and training and then just took them off. He kept them on, and then I felt like, okay, well, he's definitely going to run into Gento when he goes to the store. So long story short, he gets to the store, he buys all of the stuff, and he's getting ready to go back to the campus, and he bumps into Gento and La Brava, leaving the little tea cafe place right next door. And I gotta give it up for Gento. I love Gento this episode. And I don't know how anybody else feels, but for me, I got Luffy-esque vibes from Gento for me. And huge shout out to Horikoshi for that. And And what I mean by that, I want to elaborate on that. Because you guys remember how Oda discussed about Luffy. He didn't want to have Luffy having such a serious power or anything. He kind of wanted to make it fun and playful for the kids and for people to enjoy Luffy as a character. And we all know Luffy cuts up and jokes, and he's a little bit of an idiot, but we love Luffy. And when Luffy gets serious, Luffy gets serious. And that's the same vibe I got from Gentle. He's a little bit kooky and weird, but he's actually very smart because he figured out Deku was from UA after just a very short, brief interaction, because Deku spoke about some things about the cafe house and about the gold tips tea leaves and the way that he was walking, and it was and him being out early in the morning and him being a student. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure him being a student kind of weighed heavy about him being from UA, but it was crazy that Gentle figured that out. So, like I said in a previous couple videos of mine, I said that Gentle was a genius, and it shows in this episode, because only from just a few from a very short conversation with Deku, he figured out Deku was from UA. He's a UA student. But their interaction happened, and what I mean by I see a resemblance for him to Luffy is because Gentle, he's a little weird and quirky, but when he got serious with Deku in this fight, he got serious, and his power is it's elasticity. And I'm not using that as a reference to Luffy. I'm saying it's because his power could be because Luffy's power was rubber, and that you wouldn't really take it serious if you haven't seen One Piece. You're like, well, his power, he can stretch his arms and stuff. Well, that's weird. That's not great. But what Luffy does with the power, he accelerates his heart rate. He can use Gum Gum no pistol, Gatling gun, Idafet gun. He can do all of these different moves, and that's what we saw Gentle doing. We didn't see any definitive moves, but his quirk is elasticity, so he can make the ground elastic. He can turn the air elastic. He can create like a wall of elasticity. We saw him taking metal from a steel frame of a building construct and making it bounce, making the screws and bolts bounce. So we get to see the intricacies of his quirk at work, and that's what I was saying that as to reference to Luffy. It was crazy, man. That was really epic, and Horikoshi deserves an award for that, because a lot of times you wouldn't see characters like that with his quirk and the way that he acts. You wouldn't take Gentle serious, but throughout this episode, you can definitely see, wow, okay, I'm taking Gentle serious now. And their whole fight's going on, and then he starts to explain to Deku that, I want to just go to the festival just to prove that I can break into you guys' school. That's not what he said, but I'm just kind of paraphrasing, kind of guessing that's kind of what his end goal is. But that's all he wanted to do. He doesn't want to hurt or stab anybody. He made that very clear to Deku, but Deku doesn't want to hear it because he wants this day to go perfect for Eri, Mirio, and himself, so they can have a wonderful time. And all of the other students, we saw him having like a brief flashback, thinking about all of the times they've practiced so far, and Eri and Midnight and everybody that was practicing and getting ready for the festival, so they can have just such a wonderful time. And we saw him going through that, and that kind of also made it easier for me, because when this first happened and I saw him, I was like, Deku's finna do something stupid and he's finna try to attack Gentle, and I was like, you don't have to fight him, you really don't. But after seeing everything take place and then realizing that, if something happens, they're going to call the alarm and the festival's going to get shut down. So I understand where Deku's coming from as well. So I understand why he decided to attack Gentle, only because he doesn't want the festival to be canceled for Eri and everyone that put all this hard work into the festival. And then we have another moment that I really, really enjoyed. We see La Brava interacting with this guy, innocent bystander. Hey, we're filming a movie, don't worry about it. And then we hear her spouting all this stuff throughout the episode. And when Gentle was bouncing on the steel beams and was threatening to let the steel beam fall on this elderly person, and Deku was like, you wouldn't do that, and Deku rushed over to save him, and Gentle was like, well, I wasn't going to let that happen at all. I was going to turn it back to rubber before it hit the ground, but I needed you out of my way, and I knew that you would come and try to save him. So that's the thing, because Gentle's not a bad guy, he's not a good guy, he's just a guy, in my opinion. He's just a guy doing whatever he wants to do, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. and because he wasn't going to let the steel beam fall on the elderly man. But one thing that really stood out to me and I loved was that, in the fact that LaBravo was like, well, Gentle, you used such weird tactics, and he was like, I know, and he was like, man, it's so good. It's so good. You wouldn't expect this from such like a I don't know how. I feel like Gentle's kind of just going to take place in this arc. I don't know. But if he ever decides to come back throughout the story, I would love to see Gentle again. But it's so crazy because we get this one character that we're just introduced to, and he's not such like a major threat or anything. He's just a character in the show that we got in this arc. And he's already left a wonderful impression on me, man. I love the character. I really do, man. And we end with the episode of Gentle heading to UA, and his plans is out the window because he ran into Deku and everything, so he has to abandon his plans. He's just going to dive for it, and Deku's chasing after him. Now, one of the other facts that I really loved about this episode was the Delaware Smash, I want to say it's Air Shot or Air Shoot edition. Epic title, epic name for it. That was absolutely fantastic. But that's everything that happened this episode, man. This is your boy, Dick Incredible. Don't forget to smash that like button until you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. And subscribe. But only if you really want to, man. And remember, the anime matters. Anime is greatness. And anime is life, man. Peace out.
Are we gonna play now? Ready for the show? I'm about to take down, you already know. Get the fuck out of my face now, yeah, you got it.